Okay, so basically PMM, two components. The main one is the server that will provide us with a web interface, and it will centralize all the agents, and then we will install the agent on each of our nodes. So my favorite way to install PMM is by using Docker. You could also use an Amazon AMI or a virtual appliance. But even when we are in Amazon, I prefer Docker. So first, you create a data container. So the data container allows us to always keep our data in place and then upgrade the server container without touching the data. So doing that. Okay, I don't have Docker. I will do some on Docker. That works.
Somebody said that they're getting low video quality. That's interesting because we are officially streaming according to Restream at 1080p, which is interesting. So I don't know what's going on there. Very interesting.
That's weird. Yes,
that
indeed.
is weird. That is very strange. Yeah. So I just double checked.
I can make my.
That's okay.
I can make this larger.
Yeah, hopefully people can still catch the video resolution there. Yeah, so Charlie's getting 1080p. So it must be something local on a couple people's clients. Charlie, I'm glad you're here to fix it. I take back 92% of everything I said about you.
All right. So that got my data container installed. Now I'm gonna install the server itself. I'm gonna say volumes and gonna use the previous container I created. And I'm just gonna name it PMM server. And here is the image, Percona PMM server with a tag of version 2. So it's going to get me latest 2-point-something version. And here we are. There you go. And then we can do Docker. Oops. And it's created up, starting. Let's wait for it to start to make sure everything is healthy. Good. So we have a healthy server. That is always good. I'm going to find the IP address of this guy. I will need it later. So here we are. And I mapped ports. So 443 from my container. It's going to be 443 on the world, on the outer world, and 80 as well. So I should be able to reach those through this IP address. And then to my MySQL. First, I'm gonna create a user for the PMM. And it's gonna be identified with a super secret password. And I just limit the amount of connections it can create. So in case anything goes wrong, it's not gonna, deplete our connections. So, and then I'm gonna grant a few basic rights necessary for operations. That's that. And then I'm gonna make sure, I already have my Percona release set up. Percona release is our repositories plus a tool. I'm just gonna make sure it's up to date. Great, that's good. And I'm going to install PMM to client.
Awesome. By the way, we've got a lot of hey, hi, hey. So, hey, everyone out there in Streamland. Thanks for hanging out. And checking out what we're doing. By the way, good news, everyone. The workload is officially running on the box. So we actually will have something for Marcos to tune in a second.
To
So.
fix. I like that. I like fixing stuff.
Although I was getting some issues with the long-running transactions that I tried to introduce to the system, so that might be something I needed to debug. So I just turned off long-running.
Right. So I have my client, and I'm gonna configure the instance with the server. So I am using the server IP address here, and I'm not gonna check. I'm not gonna be checking for TLS, so it's using SSL but not verifying the certificates. And now I'm going to add my MySQL service. So this registered the node with the server. The first command, PMM admin config, will register the node with the server, and it's going to set up the Linux monitoring. And then I am going to add MySQL service. Now, and I'm going to say that, yes, sir.
Question there for you. And I don't know, did we configure the slow query log the last time we were here to collect the appropriate amount of data for this?
I'm not absolutely sure, but I have my settings handy, and I will make sure they are in place in a moment.
Because one of the things, just for people out there who are watching, you'll want to make sure that you have the slow query log set up properly. Otherwise, you won't get any QAN data unless you decide to use the performance schema as opposed to the slow log. So you have two options, right? So you can do the performance schema. Here is
quick question for you. Why don't you want to use the performance schema? Or why would you rather use the slow query log?
Well, so in the Percona version, we actually have a bit more data in the slow log, right? And we're going to have the capability to store more of it.
Well, two things. I prefer the slow log for two reasons. One is you can rate limit and reduce the impact while still having access to sampled analysis for your slow queries. And the other one is row lock time is not accounted for in performance schema. And so that sometimes is quite important. And I prefer to have the full picture with the row log times rather than not have it. So yeah, this is why I prefer the slow log. You can always use the performance schema. It's better than not using anything. So
yeah, and if you're using Aurora or RDS, you're kind of forced into the performance schema. Right?
Yeah, of course. For because you must have local access to the slow logs. The agent, the PMM admin agent must have local access to the slow logs so it can ship them. And my friend Matt Jonkovic was asking me if I have everything tuned. So I'm gonna do show global variables like slow query log. It's off. That's bad.
Which is why I asked. I didn't know if it was on or not.
No, but we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it so. Global slow query log equals on. These are all dynamic. Log output. Let me check. So you always want to make sure that log output is going to log to a file instead of going to a table. In this case, it's already in the file. I also want to make sure that long query time is reasonable. So what is reasonable? Well, if you want to capture all your traffic, and that is what most of the times we will want to do to do a query audit or to investigate specific performance issues, I would say that for regular production use, to always leave it there and just not have to worry about your slow query logs growing too much or capturing inordinate amount of queries that will add latency to the queries and whatnot. I would say 100 milliseconds, it's a very long query. Like if your queries are taking more than 100 milliseconds, you should take care of those. Less than 100 milliseconds, again, you are investigating some specific performance issue. And again, this is a ballpark figure that I think it's a good starting point.
So here's the one thing though with those settings that worries me a bit. And this is where there's always trade-offs, right? So assuming that your query workload, if you're saying like, okay, let's set this to 100 milliseconds, you miss out if the queries generally take like 10 milliseconds. You won't necessarily know, right? Like that it went from 10 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds, and you won't be able to get that kind of historical rise and fall, which can be problematic because you don't, get that level of detail.
Okay, here is what I will tell. Like if a customer comes and tells me, Marcos, I have running MySQL. What is the best way to permanently audit queries? Okay, what I would say is, let's find your QPS. Let's establish what is your, peak queries per second and what is regular workload, not the peak time, but, like something intermediate QPS. And then I will also establish what is an average response time. I will say, okay, 95% of your queries return in 3 milliseconds or less, and 99% of your queries return in 10 milliseconds or less. So then you can say, okay, long query time 15, it's really capturing the 1% outliers. Or I could say long query time 10 milliseconds is capturing that 5% of the slow queries and allowing me to skip 95% of my queries from the slow load. Does that make sense to you? Because I believe that is the right approach, but I don't have a workload here, or if I do,
you do.
I
you
still
have a
don't
workload
have.
Here.
Okay,
you have a workload
I
here.
could. Okay, then you know what? Let me. Damn! I think I only shared my browse. No, did I only share my screen? Or let me find if I. Oh, do you see my browser?
Yeah, yes, it just popped up. It just popped up.
Fantastic. Let me get to this. Let me go there. Hopefully my PMM is gonna let me in. Hello, PMM. HTTPS,
I think you're gonna have to do HTTPS. Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, no. You're using the internal IP address for Amazon. You'll need to use the external one. By the way, you might want to. Yeah, that's the internal IP. So go back to the. I sent you the domain. It should be.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Use that.
I'll use that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're using just the internal private IP address.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you go back to your MySQL box, if you could please increase the font size a little bit, just for some folks who are.
Absolutely, we'll do it in a second. So it's complaining. Oops. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to complain because you don't have a valid
certificates. Yeah, the TLS certificates are bogus. So we're just gonna say, I know these guys. Just proceed. It's unsafe. Oh my god.
Well, we're done.
And admin is your default password always, and then you can change it. I'm just gonna skip it. I like it.
Don't share the super secret admin password that's default with everyone in the world. That's just horrible. Like people are gonna go out there and they're gonna be like, "Woohoo! Look what I can do."
MySQL summary, and I have like 8,000 QPS.
So yeah, you're looking at the last 12 hours, so it's kind of wonky. You can't really see the graphs, but I think if you choose the last like 5 minutes or something, you'll get a better kind of view.
Let's do something.
Yeah, there you go. So you see a little more activity.
So the thing is, I don't have. So in 5.7, I would have installed the query response time plugin for Percona Server. In 8.0, you don't need it because performance schema has a response time table, so we can fetch the latency for the queries from there, but I need to enable some instrumentation, and I will have to go look into my notes because I never remember those top of my head, to be honest. So I will not immediately have that information. So what I will do, is I'm gonna enable this low query log and learn a bit, and I'm gonna enable it fully. Now I know how many queries per second I have. That allows me to at least enable with long query time equals 0, and then rate limit to have a log of a decided number of queries. So I would say I want to log 1500 queries per second, which is already quite a bit. That's should be pretty reasonable to do a performance audit.